Greetings, good evening, and welcome to Groundings with Brother Shamari. Hoping my brother Nasheed Ali is out there and he calls back. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but I'm looking forward to my Pop Grow Something story to start out our regular scheduled program. So I'm going to try to babble a little bit until Baba Nasheed calls back. He was a little under the weather last week, so I was glad to hear from him today and know that he was ready to go. You're listening to Groundings on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all of our social media platforms at onWURD. Also, Facebook Live, WURD Radio. And however you want to stay tuned, I think we still have that free mobile application if you want to check us out. So what we do on Groundings is we try to do exactly what the title says. Ground ourselves in our culture. There's a artist named John Mayer, and he has a song called Buzzing. And actually the song is called Neon. And the line in there says, she's always buzzing just like neon, neon. She's buzzing so strong and something before she burns away. And one of the things I always say is that our people have a lot of energy, but energy ungrounded can be destructive. It can be destructive for the energy carrier. It can be destructive for the community through which that energy passes if it's not grounded. And we need to ground in our culture. So one of the missions and focuses of Groundings with Brother Shamari is to really begin to, hopefully in different ways, as we go along in some creative ways, center us in who we are as Black and African people. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And one of the ways we do that is to ground in our tradition of the griot and the storyteller by opening up every episode of Groundings with a story from Pop Grow Something. So greetings, welcome, Pop Grow Something. How are you?
Welcome, Brother Shamari.
We had a little bit of technical difficulty, but it's actually good to hear your voice, my brother. Glad to see you back on the set. You feeling better?
I'm feeling a little better, brother, a little better, but a little better is not all the way. I'm here.
We got to look out for our Pops, though, so, you know, you got to make sure you're doing all right, sir.
Yes, sir. So, just a few notes in honor of my Pop Grow Something. You know, he used to like to play his juice harp right after that African theme that you come on with. But I'm gonna tell you the story of Pop Grow Something and our village, the Groundings village. You know, I know that you did your tour. Did you do your tour today?
The drum circle?
Yeah,
brother. It was nice. It was last week was good.
Right.
This one we elevated, man, which is a very strong family atmosphere. The heat was flowing, the energy was flowing. Yes, to answer your question, we did it. And just so people know, join us next Sunday at 1 o'clock, 4th and Washington. That's our next stop. I'm going to have my brother Wasette calling on Friday to talk about, you know, just the idea and what we're doing, but just bringing love of the drum and community to the village. Mm-hmm. Today we were at North Philadelphia Peace Park at 22nd and Jefferson, man. It was a great time.
So, Brother Shamari, as he travels about taking groundings throughout Philadelphia and setting the atmosphere for culture and knowledge and action, as always, around 6 o'clock, Pop Grow Something was there when they returned to groundings, and Pop Grow Something, he was planting. And the people had come, many people had come to this groundings. And they lined up side by side, women on one side, girls with the women, boys and men on the other side, but they were in a straight line going as far back as you could see, there was nothing but community, nothing but village, and nothing but ground, nothing but people. And they were lined up like that because they had just lost a good brother, a truth warrior, and they had come to Pop grow something for some words of connection and words of love and strength. So in that front row, with the boys and the men on one side, there was a space that was left open. And this was in the evening time. And Pop grew something. He looked out and he said, I know why you're here. He said, because we lost a warrior named Muhammad. He said he was a truth warrior. He was a man of action. He said, now, I heard some of you never met the man, but you knew the man by his voice and by the quality of his thoughts and by his passion for truth. You knew Brother Mo. And when you heard that Brother Mo had passed, like always, a person with that type of knowledge and that type of thought, when they leave, they take a whole library with them. And Brother Mo was and is still a living library. Pop grow something. He looked out and he said, I knew Mo. I knew not only the voice, but I knew the man. Say, me and Mo, we almost came up together. He said it was a time where the vendors, a community of black vendors, used to be on 11th, 12th, 10th Street. And within that community, we passed knowledge. In that community, we spent money with each other. And Mo would be out there every day. Every day he would be out there because it was not only a place where merchandise and money was exchanged. It was a place where debates took place. The men and the community would come and debate all day. They would debate the truth, and Mo would be in the center of it. And Mo wouldn't leave until he extracted the truth from falsehood. That was Mo. Pop Grow something said, I went to the Million Man March, and out of 1 million men, guess who I saw? I saw Brother Muhammad. And Brother Mo, he was talking to one of the pioneers of the Nation of Islam. He may have been from another city, another state, Detroit, Michigan. And Mo was there. I got that picture. That's a picture that I treasure. And you know Mo, because Mo always told the truth no matter what. If it was about Frank Rizzo, Mo knew about it. Mo knew about when Rizzo's squad was just killing black men for no reason back in that day. And if you listen to him on the radio, he would tell you Winston Hood in Abbotsford. Winston Hood was a young man that was trying to get his life together. He wasn't armed with a pistol. He was just armed with his knowledge, with his heart, with a bean pie and a newspaper. And the police came on him and just killed him. That shook up Mo. Mo never forgot it. He knew it came under Rizzo. And it was Cornell Warren. The Warren family was from our community. And young Cornell was handcuffed. And they shot him behind one of them buildings, either the Roundhouse or the African American History Museum. Shot him, handcuffed. Mo never forgot that. When they had the demonstration, and Rizzo said, go get them. And he didn't say them. You know, he used a derogatory name. And we were young, 16, 17. And he unleashed his police on students who all they were asking for was that they get their own history in the public school system. Mo never forgot that. So when they wanted the Rizzo statue to go down, Mo was a voice and said, that's got to go. That's got to go. Mo never forgot that a black man dropped a bomb on the Move family. So when they put the sign up, Mo said, no, we can't have that. We're not going to have it. And you heard him loud and clear because he had that deep voice. That deep voice caught your attention. That's a deep voice that every storyteller, every truth warrior would like to have. A deep voice like that, a voice that catches your attention. There's a few that's around, like Mumia Abu-Jamal. He's got a voice like that. As soon as he speaks the first word, you listen. Because Mumia's got the truth. And Mo knew that. Mo laughed. When he was on the air, he was serious, but he laughed. And he debated on the air. I remember one time that he was debating about the virtues of Amoroso. He backed up at first and said, man, you don't know what you're talking about. But after time went on, they met in equal groundings. And Mo said, yeah, okay, I can see what you're talking about. That was Muhammad. That was a good brother. And he smiled. You know, we had a running joke. Back in the day, he was a sportsman. And he was going with L.A. Lakers. And I said, Mo, why are you going with L.A. Lakers? You live in Philadelphia. And then we would laugh, and I say, man, pack your bags and go to L.A. He said, no, pack my bag. You pack your bags and come with me. It's the Lakers.
It's been one of those days with connections for me. Oh, Pop Grosson calls back and finishes that story. It's interesting because I remember vending, not that I vended, but I remember the vendors on 11th Street. And I remember vendors on 52nd Street. And I was thinking today, I might pull you into this, Brother Dave, because I was thinking about tribes and the fact that, you know, it used to be a word that people ran from. It used to be a derogatory word, and now I'm seeing a lot of people really advising people to join tribes, create your own tribe, join a tribe, be a part of a tribe. I see the word everywhere now. In that vein, I was remembering when there used to be a community of vendors. You know, that was kind of the way. It was two things I remember black people doing as an economic foundation in the city. Now, of course, we had stores and businesses, but the two things I remember the most are vending, particularly like jewelry vendors, man. We had some dynamic jewelry vendors. And we also had what they call jobbers. You know, the brothers that would deliver the merchandise to the different stores. They called them jobbers back in the day. A lot of those brothers were Muslim. You know, I would just remember the vending and back in the day, man, we saw a Muslim brother. That was kind of like the epitome of black power manhood back in the day in the 70s and 80s. And I don't see that anymore. I don't see vendors. I don't see the black vendors on 52nd Street like I used to. I don't see the black vendors down 11th Street. So I don't know what Pop Grow Something's energy is like, but I want him to finish the story. But I also want him to hold on, because I want to have a conversation about how we bring that back, because I think we're going to have to become that self-sufficient again as black people. Like, you know, people can chase the vote, we can chase reparations, we can do a lot of things, and you know, whether I'm pro or con, it doesn't matter. But there's some authentic ground level, tribe level stuff that I think we're going to have to begin to bring back to the way that we relate and operate with each other if we're going to be serious about moving forward as a collective group of people. Pop, you back with us?
Yeah, yes, sir. That's Brother Mo. Mo said, don't tell that Lakers story. So I'm going to wide this story up. But anyway, in the Groundings village, like I said, the girls and the women were shoulder to shoulder in a straight line going all the way back. And the men and the boys were shoulder to shoulder in a line going straight back. So Pop wrote something. He just said, look, let us remember our truth warrior Mo. Let us ask that his soul and his spirit be at peace. For he did his job here on earth. And with that, Pop wrote something, said, now the space that you hold for Mo right there, I want someone to step up. And someone stepped up in his spot and said, now that's your job. And when that someone stepped up in his spot, everybody else tightened up their lines, shoulder to shoulder, feet to feet, and with their hands in the air. I said, remember, Mo, always. And I said, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be unto you. In the village, in Groundings, in honor of Mo, said, wa alaikum salam, sir. And then we went off to hear Brother Shamari.
Pop, I don't know what your energy is like, man, but I don't know if you heard me. If you can, man, you got some energy, I want you to hold on a while, because you brought up something in your story that really struck a memory for me, and it was about being around and just the community of vendors and how big vending was as a thing, you know, just like Philly was known as a drum town. You know, the idea of vending is a big deal. I don't know it's going to be one of those nights, Mr. Dave. Evidently, it's going to be one of those nights. So we just going to have to deal with it now. But I want to go back and ask this question to our listening audience. You know, when we come back, I want your thoughts. You know, I've been hearing this word tribe, and like I said, I grew up and people said the word tribe was derogatory. You don't use that word, but I'm seeing it everywhere now. People have literally written books about the need for people to create tribes, right? And that tribes is the way of the 21st century. It's like the idea of this identified network of people who are connected around social, economic, maybe even kinship relationships for a common purpose. And I, you know, this first wave of COVID that hit us, I think exposed a lot of weaknesses in the black community. And I think that there's going to be another wave of this COVID thing, some shutdowns and some things that might be even as more severe than the first wave. And I believe that everybody's pushing for this big unity. Black people got to unify. And I believe that that's true. But I also believe we need to create some unified networks, some unified tribes that we all are a part of, and then those tribes can unify with each other depending on the issue or the cause that they agree around. They can confederate, for lack of a better word. But I want to talk about, I want to hear from you all, y'all my elders a little bit. What happened to that vending community? Did it just disappear? Was it a systematic thing that took that away? I don't know if you heard me pop out gross on. I was remembered in jobbers back in the day, the brothers who used to, you know, get the candy and get the goods on their truck, and they drive around in either a pickup truck or a little small truck, and they would deliver the wholesale merchandise to the different stores that we had in our neighborhood. Like, there was this enterprise. Some people will call it an informal economy. I call it an enterprise. It was our economy. That's how brothers like yourselves literally made a living and sustained a family. I don't see that anymore, and I'm wondering, was it a concerted attack that took that away, or did it just disappear? I would like some insight from you all. And then also with our listening audience, what type of tribes, what type of tribe relationships do we need to really create as a people? What do we need to rally around and be able to deliver as an authentic community network if we're going to sustain the systematic assault. Because I think that COVID is coming again. It's going to be stronger. It's going to be even more challenging this time around. And if we don't begin to organize at the level of community and family and kin and neighborhood and ethnicity, if we don't begin to organize around, ideas of Pan-Africanism and repatriation, or organize around ideas of we're going to stay here, but we're going to stay here and be powerful. We're going to be sovereign. Whatever it is, how do we begin to formulate the idea of bringing back this sense of tribal connection around guilds, around apprenticeships, around expertise and abilities and relationships that is necessary to sustain us as a people? Hit me up at 215-634-8065. Again, that's 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900. This is Groundings with Brother Shamari. When we come back, I'm going to hold Pop Grow Something, and I'm going to bring my brother David Barnes into the conversation. And then I want to hear from you, so stay tuned.
1 in 23 will be diagnosed with colorectal cancer in their lifetime, yet more than 60% of deaths from colorectal cancer could be avoided with preventative screening. A colonoscopy can save your life. Skip the pre-visit and schedule your screening directly at einstein.edu/colon. Colon cancer is preventable. Learn more at einstein.edu/colon.
Warning. If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt, you have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-965-5269. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible, without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk to call. For free information, call now. 1-800-965-5269. That's 1-800-965-5269. 1-800-965-5269.
And welcome back to Groundings with Brother Shamari. I'm on the phone line with Pop Grow Something. Missed you, Pop Grow Something, last week, man. I'm glad you're back in the flow with us a little bit. I don't want to drag you too much under the whatever that saying is. I know your energy might be a little low, but when I first heard of you or met you, I didn't know you as like a social worker or a counselor or anything like that, man. And you were the Nasheed, the jewelry vendor, like the legendary guy, man. So talk a little bit, when you brought up 11th Street, man, it brought back some memories of those conversations, and people would travel down there, probably ain't even had no money just to be in the community of the brothers who were vending. I know along 52nd Street, man, it was a similar kind of energy. Never the same as 11th Street, but 52nd Street, like vending used to be the thing for conscious brothers. And it was like the way many of them sustained their families and made a living. So my question is, number one, just talk about your experiences in that vein. But then I'm also wondering what happened to that culture, the vending culture, the jobber culture in Philadelphia. Was it a systematic thing that wiped that away, or did it just fade away?
Vending in Philadelphia was an institution. A lot of other cities, heard about vending in Philly, and they came and they checked out, I'm going to say, that model. They checked out our model. Or Philly would travel from city to city. Mm. And they would set up vending, like it would be a whole route of vending, especially in the beginning of the spring, where there was a lot of festivals from New York on down to New Orleans, starting with the New Orleans Jazz Festival, moving up to Atlanta, moving up to New York, and then going to D.C. And all of these were conscious events where, again, knowledge was exchanged. It wasn't only making money. Knowledge was exchanged, and people networked, and it was a whole thriving lifestyle. And to answer one of your questions, I think that instead of tribe, it was organized. They were organized. You can call them tribes, but these were organized groups of different people. Some were African culturalists, some were Muslims, some had no affiliation at all, but they all were conscious. Some were Christian, but we were all one community. No matter what you believe, we were out there. We were selling. For those who could travel, that was a better experience. For those who stayed here, that was an experience. And 11th Street was the first street that I knew of, that I heard of. Then it expanded from 11th to 12th to 10th. But 11th is where it all started. And brothers fought. Whatever you want, you have to fight for. The city, it might have been Rizzo, who was the chief commissioner, but they didn't want vending downtown.
Right.
And one of the arguments was, look, John Wanamaker was a vendor, and look at him. He made his money like that. And this is an honest way of making the money. We're not bothering nobody. We try to make an honest living. We're not in jail. We want to feed our families, and this is a way to do it. So we had to fight for those corners before they put regulations on it, before L&I came on.
Right.
And then city council got him to, vending, you had people who became mayors from vending. You had John Street and his brother Milton Street. Milton Street went to Harrisburg on vending.
Right.
John Street was a vendor and got into, a brawl with Franny Rafferty or somebody.
That's what we our early cultural stuff back with the medallions and the beads, man, all of that stuff we got from vendors. The bookstore thing came a little later. Like at first, if you were into consciousness and the culture, most of the stuff you got was from vendors.
That's right, because most of the black books I got at that time when I was, reading and learning came from vendors.
Yeah.
All the information, if you wanted to know who was coming to town, Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, if he was coming to town, it would be a flyer down.
Right.
Kwanzaa was new at that time, so if you wanted to know where the Kwanzaa event was up in Germantown, you get a flyer from a vendor. So we passed information along. So what I was saying about 11th Street was that all corners of the city came to 11th Street. So I was able to meet and know people from north, south, east, and West Philadelphia, just by being a vendor. So if I wasn't vending and I was at that part of the town, I would know somebody, and they would know me from 11th Street.
Right. And back in the day, that mattered because you couldn't really freely travel to all parts of town without having somebody vouch for you.
That's right.
So let me ask you, I think you hit it a little bit, but I want to hear you directly. I grew up and I remember vending, in my 20s. I remember people being around. I remember 52nd Street was my spot. On the way to going to Know Thyself bookstore and Hakeem's bookstore, there were brothers, and, probably a few sisters, but brothers out there making a living by vending. And then next thing you know, Knots. The brothers that are out there vending now, most of them are attached to one of the Korean-owned or Asian-owned stores along that pathway. They're not independent vendors of their own items. What do you think? From your perspective, what happened? Was it an intentional attack on that? Was it systematic? Did the city kind of bum rush the idea? From your perspective, what happened, or did it just disappear and brothers went and got quote unquote real jobs?
For the most part, Brother Shamari, when you're a vendor, you got to have a truck and you got to have merchandise. You got to be able to travel back and forth. You have to go to New York City, right? So there was a period of time, again, when we started it, when the brothers and the sisters, and I have to give a shout out to Laverne McNear because she was one of the first vendors out there, first African American female vendor out there amongst the male vendors. You had educational institutions African educational institutions who supported the school by vending, like
Right.
Shogbo.
Right.
They were out there. So you had a place where if you wanted a job, you could go and meet one of those brothers. So that was in the beginning. But then later on, what happened was, and the Koreans was out there during this time, but they just had a little cardboard box and some wigs. And you would see them on Market Street. They would be combing these wigs, and sisters would be coming, just buying wig after wig after wig. And that, they were making money.
Right.
So then you had them sending for their people, and their people coming over on some, on some government plan.
Mm.
And they would come over with a grant, and in that grant, they would buy a truck. They didn't have to really go to New York to get the product because the product was sent to them from Korea.
Mm.
All of this stuff was made in Korea. And then they started taking over the spaces. And then the spirit of brotherhood, so you got to have a spirit of, you said it earlier, you have to have a spirit of black unity.
Mm.
You have to have a spirit. That spirit left because then people who had spots established started selling spots to Koreans.
Just like the stores, okay.
So that changed the whole fabric of things, the whole nature of things. The brotherhood left.
Mm.
And then we were trying to come together as one unified group. And that was kind of difficult because we were so independent.
Right.
We didn't want to sit down and listen to nobody, or be led to nobody. That's my opinion.
Okay. That's why I'm asking you, Pop.
So you get a breakdown of what once was. And then on top of that, the third thing were these big establishments. The holiday time was one of our best seasons. Well, we would wait for that because that would take care of our bills for the upcoming year. We could buy our goods, take our bills, give our family some money just based on Christmas.
Mm.
Christmas come, man, all of Philly be swarmed, and they would just be buying from the vendors. But that stopped. See, when they built the gallery,
Okay.
We would come out there, because you come out there early in the morning. We come out there early in the morning, and they say, well, we'll see you later when we come out the gallery.
And they had $2 left.
Man, they would never come out.
We got to write. Somebody got to tell this Philadelphia story of like the 70s and 80s and 90s, man. Like how you had community and then you didn't. And, it's like we talk about gentrification now, but we don't see it as a process. Like people sit and they plan how they can destabilize communities, Brother Dave. And sometimes we look up after the fact and we're like, oh, what happened? We don't understand that mugs are literally like, okay, that's a threat to my power, or that's a threat to this neighborhood I want to take over. How do I move these core institutions? Like, we just see them as brothers vending. Other people are like, yo, that's a unified threat against my ability to take that economy. So, that's why I want to hear the stories and talk about it, because we're in now the hungriest city, the hungriest big city, the poorest big city. But it got here. There's a journey to get to this point. And we pay we've been kind of like cannon fodder and collateral damage in that journey.
Well, excuse me, my mic on. So, Brother Tamari, I'm very interested in this conversation because I grew up in the era of vending. In fact, I felt and still feel like vendors were the glue that held the community together. As you and Nashi mentioned earlier, people came to the vendors to get the information. They brought us the African-centered items that we wore, that we smelled, that we brought and ate. It was those things that kept us grounded in the community.
Yeah.
And not only was it the vendors, but then, as Nashi said, it had the festivals all throughout the year. Even up in New York, I know that in New York it was predominantly African vendors. Even in the wintertime, they would sit out there with a pail of coal burning underneath their seat to keep them warm. But it was Mayor Giuliani that decided, as you mentioned, they have too much liberation.
Yeah.
They're not paying taxes. They're making too much of a good living without involving us in it. They're doing their own thing, so they eliminated that. And it just spread it around the country. And it made it more harder for vendors to succeed. They had to get licensed and regulations And as Nashi mentioned, Lorraine, she stayed down there through a grandfather clause that they had in the city of Philadelphia.
Right.
But I remember when I first started at Odunde, and I was selling watermelon slices, and I thought it was a really good thing. It was only after I went to the ALD in Washington, D.C., African Liberation Day.
Right.
It was that day that I was actually born again. Became a born-again African, and I began hustling, selling, and I went to the Million Man March selling Polaroid pictures.
Wow. And that's my thing, when even the trust, like the trust that has to be underneath that, because you guys are exchanging cash money. It was no square space. I mean, like you're exchanging cash money. The community has to trust you, because if you're selling bad stuff, they know where to find you, right? There's a lot that goes with these kind of, informal, authentic, open air economies. And I really believe that a lot of what we're struggling with right now, I was apprentice under a brother who was a jobber. I learned a lot from delivering. I worked with the brother Sabor that started Georgie Will's Potato Chips. So I know that whole thing, that culture, man. And a lot of it used to be associated with a lot of brothers who were Muslim. Mm-hmm. And not everybody was a Muslim, right. But that was a strong part of the Muslim culture, this idea of self-sufficiency. Mm-hmm. People look at people selling bean pies and Final Call right now. People don't know. They're like, yo, you create the whole nation around that. Like, I just believe, and again, I'm not looking at tribe as a bad word. I'm talking about the idea of a connected group of people around a social economic cause with a structure in place. And I believe that we're going to have to return to that if we're going to survive this onslaught that is being brought upon us. So, brother Pop, I'm gonna let you go because I know I want to hear.
Can I just make a couple points?
If you want to make a point, then I want you to hold on. I'll come back to you after commercial break.
All right.
All right. This is Groundings with Brother Shamari coming up on the commercial break. If you want to join our conversation, hit us up at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. When we come back, we'll jump to the phone lines and keep this conversation going. So stay tuned.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. Have an old working fridge or freezer in your garage or basement? Pico will pick it up, dispose of it responsibly, and give you a $75 rebate. That's right, $75. Plus, you can save as much as $150 a year on your energy bill by getting rid of it. Just schedule your pickup at pico.com/recycling or call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE today. Be sure your fridge or freezer is plugged in and working at time of pickup.
And welcome back to Groundings with Brother Shamari. Actually, I'm going to jump to the phone lines because a couple people have been holding for a while, and then I'm going to bring Pop Grow something back into our conversation. So let's go to line one. Brother Maurice, greetings. Maurice?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you now, yes.
Yeah, let me tell you, I love you brothers, and I'm on a landline, and I've been holding on for 40 minutes, but I don't mind because I really appreciate your show. But I'm telling you, you guys got a bad habit of turning the talk show into a podcast. You got to understand, these young guys don't have landlines. So even if they walk by and heard this conversation and say, hey, I really want to participate, they're not going to hang on the phone for 40 minutes on a cell phone.
I understand. Hopefully they'll listen, though. But I get your point, Brother Maurice.
That's all I wanted to say. Now, let me get to what you were talking about, because this is what I've been bringing up for a long time. See, back in the day, 52nd Street was 52nd Street. Now, I used to call it Vietnam, but it's not Vietnam anymore. It's everybody. Every foreign person got a store or a place there making some money but us. And that hurt to me because I used to see the old heads who I considered mentors break it down to me about this, and I appreciate their hustle because to be a vendor, you got to love what you do. There ain't some job you just take because you're just trying to make a couple of dollars.
Right.
Because I would travel from Germantown all the way to 52nd Street because my vendor, listen to me what I'm saying, my vendor had what I wanted, and I'm not buying it from nobody
That's
else.
right.
But see, people forget about that customer service thing. Now, when they look at TV, they see these so-called rappers or so-called entertainers just to say, hey, I'm opening up a restaurant. And they know that's a lie because you got to know what you're doing. That's one of the hardest businesses in the world to open up. But they make it seem like they got a dress up or they design it. Like it just comes to their head and they get that fast money. that, you know, maybe the city officials will do a half price on vending license to get the black community back out there again. But of course, when I brought it up, people shot me down like I didn't know what I was talking about. And I accepted that because they don't understand. When you have a corner store, where my mentors come from, that's a business you love because you might be in there. You're not in there for 8 hours. You're
Right.
in there for maybe 12, 16.
Oh, without a doubt.
to
Yes,
keep it
sir.
running. But the problem is what happened on these street corners today is we didn't want our kids to do what we did, so we send them to college, and they didn't finish college, and now they got a big debt.
That's right.
Now they try to come back home. They don't know how to run the business. Now the businesses is closed. It used to be a cleaner's family, black family named Dawson, that was from all the way from Parkside up to Woodland Avenue with dry cleaners. They're gone, dead, done,
Yeah.
because they didn't pass it on because, I'm sending my kid to college. He's going to be this great person. And come to find out with the drugs and everything in there that they ain't nothing but got a debt.
But the other thing we gotta pay attention to and get serious about, and you know, people gonna hear this and take it the wrong way and call me a racist or whatever.
No, you're
There is not one business formation that black people dominated. Like you talk about the dry cleaners, man, or right now you see it with the barbershops. Where a group, another ethnicity comes in and they're organized and they intentionally with a plan, and they don't care who they hurt or who they come in and they take over these joints with an intention, often with some assistance from this culture, but we don't understand that as a strategic attack against our economic foundation.
But they out-hustled us. That's the problem.
They did more than out-hustle us. So it's almost like saying gentrification is just a market. No, they get help from politicians to help gentrify certain areas, man. And there was help. I worked in my father's store, like you said, 12, 14 hours a day, and I was only like 10, 11 years old. So I understood the dynamics behind the scene of the ability of them. It wasn't just that they gave up money to take over the store. They had a system. There was an agenda, a strategy, and a plan such that they came and they targeted cleaners. They're targeting the barbershops now. They target different domains where they knew we had a stronghold. They targeted the vendors on 52nd Street. We used to go to war with the Korean Business Association over that. So we don't understand that sometimes we gotta just do a race first thing and say, yo, they coming at our necks, and we need to tribe up and protect ourselves from this stuff.
Well, can I give you a quick example?
Yes, sir.
Real quick example. Okay, you got Mr. Lee's store is the Asian, and then you got Mr. Thompson is the black dude. Mr. Thompson was open from 8 to 8. He comes in, he's making some money. Now he decides, I'm making money now. I want to start opening up at 10, and he's closing at 6. When the Korean guy comes in and stays open from 8 to 8 every day, and here's the hookup that he does that I first noticed in the 80s. He's working on the weekend, and he's working every holiday. So all the black stores are closed on the holiday. He's wide open. And then we start getting so used to going to his store because he's always open, and he's never late. He's there, and he say 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, that door is open. And guess what? He's not worried about no heat, and he's not worrying about no air conditioning. All he's concerned about is sell.
Well, but Maurice, I think I would love for us to have a community conversation about this. I think that there's some truth in that version of the story, but I think that oftentimes we assume that we lose because of something, a level of triflingness. And I'm saying to you that there's a coordinated takeover that happens on many aspects of our economy, and we don't protect ourselves. We don't rally around ourselves enough to fight back and defend our economic, our social, our cultural welfare. And my major point right now is that we better do it soon, because this next wave of what's going to happen for us is going to rely on us to be as creative, as authentic, as much ingenuity as we can bring to bear in order to sustain ourselves. So we're going to have to step up to that next level and bring our A game. I thank you for your call. Let's go to Joseph, line 2. Greetings.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah. How you doing, Samarian, to your guest brother, girl, something?
We doing good.
Yeah, you know what it is? Tribalism. Let me throw some rapid fire stuff on you. You ever seen the movie The Warriors?
Yes, a long time ago.
All right. Think of that. David Dinkin, the first black man in New York City, said, New York City not like a salad bowl like everybody thinks. It's like a dinner table. You got the rice there, the beans separate, the beef. That's what we got to get back to, because what happened, another study, when I was a kid, I liked raising pets, and I had gerbils, all 1 litter, 7 of them. I took one away for a week. When I tried to put him back in the cage with the rest of the siblings, they attacked him, tried to kill him because they don't recognize him. Last point, all the talk now is human being naturally evil, good, or bad. That's been researched. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. A lot of top scientists say man going to eventually destroy themselves. But it comes down to that tribalism. The whole idea, you have to educate the people and let them know we got to have resources, because last point, they say I'm an evolutionist, and we said 98% of a chimpanzee, they had a bottomless monkey, which is a close sibling of a chimpanzee. They said because of the Congo split, men inherited that gene because chimpanzee go to war too. They go to war because of resources, but a bottomless monkey, they call make love, not war, because they have resources. So it comes down to resources. We need to regenerate our energy and talk more about redistributing the wealth and raising the minimum wage and free child care and health care and all that stuff.
Right.
Instead of keep bringing up this race issue. Because what you're going to do, go to Brooklyn and change all of high school names from Andrew Jackson in Queens, they change that name, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander. We got to watch the game the enemy is playing. He's making us dwell on that race stuff. I'm not saying the race is not the issue, but it's a balance. You got to talk about redistributing the wealth.
And I agree with you, but before we get to the point of expecting, see, we got to talk about self-sufficiency first, because again, if you can't feed yourself, you're not going to be in a position to demand anybody to do anything else beyond that for you. And so as long as your enemy controls your survival, then they control you. So we got to get to the point where, if we're serious, I don't care what politically people are serious about. Like, if your thing is voting, cool. If your thing is Pan-Africanism and returning home, that's cool. If your thing is reparations, that's cool. None of that will matter unless it's grounded in an ability to have an authentic infrastructure in place by which you fulfill your need at the bottom of the pyramid. That is food, clothing, shelter. If you got to outsource that to some other people, particularly to another people who don't like you, there is nothing else you will be able to accomplish until you fix that reality. And I feel like we as black people keep skipping over the fact that we think we can outsource our food, our clothing, and our shelter and still have power in other levels. It does not work like that. Pop. I know you wanted to make another point, so I want to come back to you before we go to commercial.
Yeah, a couple, Kujichagulia, that's the Kwanzaa, that's the Nguzu Saba, the seventh principle, and that's the principle of self-determination. Mm-hmm. While other folks looked upon us as vendors, and we looked upon ourselves as merchant in the African marketplace. And that's very important because, again, it brought us together as a black community. And David Barnes had said something earlier. I met David Barnes. He would come down on 11th Street. He would talk to the vendors. He would see what was happening. I mean, he wouldn't spend, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. He'd be there for a while.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he wouldn't spend no money. Okay, my bad.
I don't know. I hope he spent some money. I can't remember if David Barnes spent some money with me, but that was all right. He came and he supported. So I found out that, through meeting David Barnes, that he was a photographer. So when I got married, I asked David Barnes to take the photography of my wedding. Because that's the kind of connection that we made down there. So it was more than just, exchanging the money. And your teacher, Dell and Deke,
yep.
I wouldn't have known who they were unless they had walked down 11th Street.
Yep.
And the other brothers respected the thoughts of Dell and Deke. So when he talked about, what was it, bandit?
Culture bandits, yeah.
I never heard that theory before, but here I'm getting it from the actual author of that theory.
Right.
So he would sell his books down on 11th Street, but he would also leave some for the other merchants to sell for him.
Mm.
So not only was his book there, his book was in the African marketplace too.
There you go.
So that's the type of place it was. That's what I wanted to say.
I appreciate that, man. The brother Hawk over at Black and Nobel, he started out as a street vendor of books, man. He used to vend books, man. He was one of the earliest carriers when we did Why Our Children Hate Us, man. That brother had his street team pushing that book out for us, man. And it built community. It wasn't just about the money. It's about, that's also the way we built structure. We built protection systems. We built connections and relationships and community. And if somebody was having an issue with somebody, then they would call on one of us to mediate or be mediated for. It's a whole thing of village building that I think we're going to have to go back to that way again if we're going to survive and thrive in the realities that we are about to face as a people. And that's why I'm glad that we had this conversation. It's amazing how Pop, you and I don't really check in before you do your thing, but it ain't too many times where the thing you've laid down hasn't been in alignment with the conversation I've been wanting to have. So I thank the ancestors for you, my brother, and I'm hoping to hear from you at the end of our show when Pop grows something, becomes Pop knows something, and can lay down some light for us to take throughout the week. So thank you, my brother Nasheed Ali, and again, it's good to hear your voice.
Thank you, brother.
We're coming up on a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to keep this conversation going. The conversation is really about the word tribe. Back in the day, I know we saw it as an insult. People got offended. But everywhere I'm turning right now, scholars and other people are saying, hey, we need to return to the idea of tribe. Right now, we're not going to get all black people to unify. But whatever networks you're in, we need to make sure that we're operating as collective tribes who are looking out for each other and the people in our identified networks. And if an issue arises, we can confederate and come together as a mass unit. But right now, we need to have a group of 25 or 50 or 100 or 5,000 people who we know we're all accountable to each other, because there's an affinity group, there's relationship, there's bloodlines, we might all kind of have social connections or economic connections or cultural connections. We need to organize. This is not complicated. It goes back to what the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said. The greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization. Therefore, the greatest weapon we must deploy in these times when everybody else is organized against us is we must become organized with one another for the purpose of black power, nothing less. If you have something to contribute to this dialogue, it's time for us to tribe up, y'all. Hit me up at 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900, and we will talk with you after these messages. So now when we come back, you give me a little music and let your phone go off.
I got this on, right? Oh my goodness.
Times are changing, and you deserve a system designed to grow your
Who's
business.
online too?
Meet Jaxcom, the new standard in business class voice. Only Jaxcom gives you the most features per dollar. Things like visual voicemail, call monitoring, advanced call queues, virtual assistant, plus a lot more. The stuff the other guys charge you extra for or don't have. Jaxcom proudly supports black-owned businesses. Reference WORD for 20% off any plan. Jaxcom. Visit us online at jaxcom.net. That's JAXCOM.net.
These are unprecedented times, challenging how the YMCA works to strengthen community as we have for nearly 170 years. But we've always found ways to help people and communities in times of crisis. Right now, Ys across the country are providing emergency childcare, shelter, food programs, and outreach to seniors. But we can't do it alone. Whether you're connected to the Y or have a fond Y memory, we need you to stay with us. Reach out to your local Y today and stay with us for a better us.
And welcome back to Groundings with Brother Shamari. Groundings comes at you every Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. and then Sunday from 6 to 8 p.m.
The views and opinions expressed by the guests, listeners, and hosts of any program on WORD Radio do not necessarily reflect those of ownership, management, or advertisers of this station. This is WORD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media.
And now officially welcome back to Groundings with Brother Shamari that comes at you every Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. and Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. right here at WURD Radio, 96.1 FM. 900 AM streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all of our social media platforms at onWURD. Just note, y'all, Why Our Children Hate Us, How Black Adults Betray Black Children. Second edition. We're going to sell it as an online. We did some updates to it. It should be ready this week, so stay tuned for our notice on Friday. But Why Our Children Hate Us, a lot of people have been asking us to republish the book, given all that's going on and some of the, I won't call them predictions, but just a lot of what we're experiencing right now. We set the context for them, Why Our Children Hate Us. It's just something that if we don't change the path that we're on, this is the journey that we'll continue to walk. We got to snap out of it. We got to decide that we no longer want to be in Oz in order for us to change the path forward. Right now, we seem to be content where we are, how we are. It's going to take tribes of us who decide that this is not our way. We have a better way. Maroon communities, tribes, whatever you want to call it, networks. We're going to have to really decide in pockets where we can make a contribution, where we have significance, where we have power, to work collectively based on a set of codes, based on relationships, based on intentions, based on reward, the ability to reward and sanction one another when we do right and do wrong. All of that we're going to have to organize around. And then, as necessary, we confederate and come together for larger, more macro level things. But if people were to ask me right now, what to join, it's not about these macro large organizations. All black people are not going to unify, y'all. I'm going to send you that memo right now. Anybody who's working with black people as an organizer, under the delusion that all black people need to unify before we do X, Y, and Z, they're letting you know that they're not ready to do anything. All black people, all no people unify. So it's not a black trait. It's just it's a fiction that we've been using as a way to justify why we have not moved forward. All people move in smaller micro units. They can call them tribes, they can call them social networks, they can call them secret societies. Some people might call it a cult. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But we need to tribe up. We need to have people who are under our collective relationship, who we have we make contributions to our intentions. We can hold one another accountable. We can reward and sanction people in our unit accordingly. And we are focused in making our contribution and our kazi towards causes that we collectively identify. It is the most immediate way forward that we need to begin to organize around. Because if you thought the first wave of this COVID thing was significant, and it was, I contend to you that the messaging right now is laying the context for it to even get more severe. We didn't do well. This first round exposed a lot of weaknesses in our organizing as a black people. All that black power and independence, whatever you were organizing around, all of it came up weak in phase one of our battle with COVID, which is really a battle with a whole other reality that we need to deal with, the 1% and their agenda and all that kind of stuff, whatever you want to call it. We didn't fare well in round one. We didn't do so well in round two either with the riots and all that kind of stuff. Round three is coming. We need to win this round. And the way you win this round is to establish your self-sufficiency, your ability to provide for your people at the base of the pyramid, food, clothing, and shelter. If you can't do that, if you have to outsource that to someone else, if you have to outsource the protection of your people to another group of people who don't like you anyway, you're in pretty bad shape. And I don't know that we're going to get a chance to rebound if we end up in this perpetual state of having to have other people feel sorry for us in order to help us. Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Madeline Dunn, line one. Greetings.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you taking the call. I want to first give condolences to the Moe family. I heard him one day talking, and then the next day I heard somebody say, "What happened to Brother Moe?" And then they said, "Well, you can't say because nobody knows for sure." And sad heard that the brother had passed, he has been a light in my life for a long time. Just the kind of his thought.
I see.
Anyway, as I look at where we are right now, I do like the tribal idea. In fact, I love it so much that a couple of sportscasters who sent me notices on my Facebook wanted to know what I think. I think Red Tail Squadron is good for the, from the Tuskegee Airmen.
Mm-hmm.
Earned that.
Hmm.
They took America to where she was headed for going down. But the way they were taking those planes down, and when the Red Tails got up there, those brothers did a magnificent job for World War II. And so I think that, well, anyway, I like the idea. That,
all right.
31 people who own that group now, they're the reason for the push. They decided something should be done, and they should play the Negro National Anthem at every bit. And I'm just proud to see that these kind of things are going on, that people around the whole world is involved in this. And I put it to my young brother, Tanishi Coates, who's between the world and me,
right.
And the way his dad wrote to him and the way he writes. I mean, you can understand what the brother's saying. You can know, and a couple book clubs I belong to, they didn't see how he could win all of these awards. And I said, it's just because he's being plain about what's going on and the things that is being covered up and keeping our children in the position they're in. So for me, at this point, this is my 87th year, if I make October.
Wow.
15th. And my goal this year is to get more people, and I've been talking about it a while, but it seems like some of the people now that I got on Facebook want to hear a little more about us taking our children and teaching them what we want them to know.
Right.
Spending more time with, even to the point talking breastfeeding, so that child is comfort in his mama's arms.
Yes.
Mama got a baby. Mommy can comfort that child, run her fingers through his hair, talk to him, tell him how great he is, who he looks like, grandma, and blah, blah, and blah, 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 blah. Come on, we need it.
That's right.
You know, they're not inundated with this picture of all of these big hippopotamus in the sky with money coming out of everything. Well, you know, that was right around the time when they did that report about 1% of the people in America have almost 60% of the money.
Yep. And 10% have about 95%.
And, that is just horrible. Absolutely horrible. And that's why you see Mama, she trying to get the baby to school or to the nursery or whatever and get to this job that don't pay nothing hardly anyway. Both of them working. We need to stop.
That's
we
right.
need to stop and just grab a hold of ourselves and say, let's look at each other. Do we really love each other? Are we really in love? No wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
That's
no
right.
baby, unless you can afford to take care of this child. I'm telling you, the day is going to come when they can see that child starve to death on the street and we can give it a piece of bread.
Right. And that's why you got to get into a network, a group, a collective where even those kind of decisions, you know, because when you make an individual emotional decisions about the rest of your life based on how you feel in a moment, they tend not to work out well. That's why you need people who can give you advice and sense and have rules and protocols for how you do things like marriage and who you have sex with and who you procreate with and you're like, that is what these collective units that our ancestors grew up in and had rites of passage for. When we talk about grounding, we've lost our way as it relates to being African human beings. There are rules to everything we do in our human journey because we were always striving for a higher ideal and good character. We understood that we would be judged, not know at the last minute say, oh, my bad, I repent of all my sins and I get to go to heaven. No, it didn't work like that for us. You had to live an exemplary life of good character in order to be seen as an honored a person within our village. Like if you didn't make it through rites of passage, you couldn't procreate.
That's right. And that's what we're doing. We got a program going on where we hope to do brothers and sisters. And if T was looking into that, he's got it going on. The brother is working himself. I think he take a little rest, but.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I thank you, Mama Dunn, for your call.
You're welcome. God bless.
Bless you. Let's go to Mama Nzinga. We got the mamas in the house today.
Yes, peace, Brother Shamari.
How are you?
My prayers and love go out to Brother Mo's family. Anytime we lose someone like that powerful, we all feel it. We all heard his voice. We all, a lot of know the work that he did. I was also glad to hear Pop grow something this week, too.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely missed him. I want to give a shout-out to Sister Renee, who was one of the first vendors I met when I came back to Philadelphia in the 90s. And I became a vendor myself. Some of the things that I used to participate in was Unity Day,
right,
African-American festivals. Let's see, we were doing, and I went to D.C., I vended in Harlem. Lotus Academy, we used to have vending events, some of the Afro Centers, the private schools, Lotus Academy was private at one time.
Right.
And we organized around there, and we worked together. There was a grapevine, a real grapevine, a tight, connected grapevine. Amazulu, we'd have big things once a year with Amazulu. And then we had the Locks Conference. And then we had, Kwanzaa. We were building, organizing. And we were all different religions.
Mm-hmm.
We were all black. It's called a Black United Front. We came together, and it was an economic community, and the pot was stirring, the pot was cooking, the pot was hot. And then, I don't think it was it 911 that happened? And things started to ravel and unravel and fall apart. That's when I first noticed it.
Okay.
911 is when I first noticed it, because that's when I stopped vending.
Right, okay. Because I remember the idea. I'm going to go back. Let me do my math. I remember Public Enemy. And I guess Fear of a Black Planet takes a nation of millions to hold us back. And I remember, I remember this like it was yesterday, because I guess I'm in my 20s at this time. And, maybe I need my elders to help me. I remember, it's the late 80s, so it's before 2011. 2001, 9/11, because it's the late 80s. Those songs also brought about a whole new X-Clan. So everybody before that, if you remember, was wearing gold chains. They would have 50 gold chains on. They would have rings that covered 5 fingers with their name on. It was like ridiculous. It was just like a ridiculous display of just what the word would be is ostentatiousness. Then Public Enemy and them came on the scene. They changed that whole culture. They started wearing the medallions with Africa on it. They started wearing wooden beads as bracelets and the necklace. And literally overnight, you saw the culture change from spending money on gold and designer brands to the fact that if you wanted to be in style, you had to have the leather strap medallion. You would have, you had to have conscious stuff. And I contend to you that sent shockwaves up Wall Street, because all of a sudden our money was being spent on the street corners with our brothers and sisters. We weren't going in stores. Literally, if you had a table and some goods, you could post up on 52nd Street, 11th Street, homemade jewelry, everything. Is almost like, at Kwanzaa, you're supposed to have a homemade gift. It almost like Kwanzaa became the rule, where everything you were buying at that time had to be homemade. Brothers and sisters, we created an economy around our culture overnight. And within a year, 2 years, you saw West Coast rap come on the scene, and then you saw the Southern rap come on the scene and bring back the gold teeth and the gold chain, and all the gold came back in a whole different package. And literally wiped out an economy that I saw with my own eyes. I saw it as a young man with my own eyes, where black people were literally creating an economy off of our culture overnight. The Kufis, People started wearing dashikis again. All of this, now I'm not talking about them joints made in Taiwan. I'm talking about some dashiki that was homemade. You had to have the right cloth. You couldn't have the bogus kente cloth. All that stuff, man. I saw it. I saw it come, and I literally saw it go. And that's why this is an important thing, because sometimes we give our victories away. You know, some people talk about snatching victory out of the jaws of defeat. Black people got a habit of snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. It's almost like we're allergic to winning. And so I just want to bring this conversation because I believe we're going to have to go back to what I call the old school ways if we want to survive these new school days. It's getting serious out here, and our consciousness has left us, and we got to do a call to get our consciousness back.
That's why the Creator made the children go back home. And the conscious parents will be able to uplift the minds of the children and gather them together if drugs don't rule. That was one of the things that came and just really devastated our total economy, even for the corners. But we were still making it. And then even in the early 90s, I even just put some incense out and put some things on the table and started selling stuff.
Yeah, because we had a consciousness that we owed you our support. You owed us your support. We knew we had a sense, because our culture that we lived every day was in alignment with the pop culture that was being programmed to us. And I think that people saw the power of that alignment and that frequency. When your people are singing and dancing and rapping Black Power and Kuji Jakalia, and then you're reading it, and then your schools are like that alignment scared the mess out of white supremacy, in my opinion. They did an all points bulletin on, no, we got to break that frequency right there, because that's the key to their power. And I contend to you, I saw it with my own eyes. I saw the heyday of when our popular culture was in alignment with our African-centered culture, was in alignment with what our schools were pushing to teach. And I saw that at that moment, the frequency changed for Black people, and we were elevating. And I think that the people who don't want the best for us also saw it, and they did everything in their power to change the frequency.
Well, we had traders from within, too.
Oh, always.
So that's another thing that happened. And, you know, we kind of like attacked our own selves, you know, because then the private schools became the charter schools, and somehow the brain switched. And the focus was not on the consciousness as much as it was on the money.
And what I'm saying, Mama, and I'm agreeing with you 100%. We talked about the dissolution of the vendors. We talked about those festivals we used to go to. We talk about charter schools. We talk about gentrification. It's no mistake, or it's no coincidence that a lot of that stuff comes around at the same time and begins to germinate. We are right now in 2020. The victims of what I would call a 30-year coordinated attack against the stability of the Black family and the Black community. Its most visible weapon is crack cocaine and mass incarceration. But these things we're talking about, the elimination of fathers from the home, the elimination of the ability to make a living through your own economy and your own culture, making our children have to go to these warehouse early childhood centers and things of that nature, taking them away from the mother's love and the breast milk that Mama Madeline was talking about. This has been a coordinated campaign against the dissolution and the power of the Black family, and we got to bring that back if we're going to win. I thank you for your call.
I did a test. Hello?
Yes.
I did a test not about 2 years ago, and I did pitch a table on a corner. People did stop, and I had, you know, homemade soaps and candles and stuff, and people did stop, and they did buy.
There you go.
They will come back. That grapevine has to come back. That total organized, that Black United Front has to come back. That where all religions come together and be one. Yeah. All Blacks come together and be one. And that's how we gain our power again. We got to organize. We just say we are together we're a Black United Front, and we come together, even as vendors, as whole people, because we can rise up. We will rise up. We will rise up, Brother Shamari.
We must. We have no choice. We're going to make it happen. We have to make it happen. We literally have no choice. I thank you for your call. Let's go to Reverend Joe. Line 1, greetings.
All right, march on.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, son. Oh, Lord. When was the last time you heard that record, I'm Black and I'm Proud?
That's been a minute, but I know it.
Well, they won't let them play it. See, you got to understand who's controlling the record business, the TV stations, the radio stations, what we hear, and all that other stuff. But I want people to remember, reputation is what people give you. The character is what you really are.
That's right.
We have lost our character. And I was teaching marketing and merchandise at OIC at one time. Had a lot of Spanish-speaking students in my class, and I gave them an assignment. And one of the young ladies said, "Mr. Williams, you don't understand. We can't eat whatever it was they had to do as soon as they got home." They said, "No, we can't do that until our father comes home." Then our daddy has a chair, and our daddy has the last word. We used to have that, man. I couldn't eat dinner by myself. Dinner with your parents and couldn't do a lot of talking at the table about nothing.
Right.
Until somebody asks you something.
Right.
But we need to get back to discipline. But it's a black man. I remember you telling that story about the elephants.
Yep.
I think the male elephant left, and the young elephant went crazy until the older elephant
so they returned the bull elephant.
Yeah, it's real. So we have to get back to that. But I'm going to end this week on a high note talking to you. But keep the faith down. Your faith will keep you.
It's funny that you bring that up because I was just talking with a group of brothers. We get ready to do a community rites of passage project in West Philly, and they were talking about that whole. They brought to my attention when I was telling them about the bull elephants and how their return to the family, to the pride. I don't know what elephants call their family. I think it's actually called the family. The young bulls were going crazy, man. They were attacking humans. They were attacking rhinoceroses, and it wasn't until they returned the bull elephant to the family, to the unit, to restore that complementarity, that equilibrium. See, it's not necessarily that one is better than the other. It's that we were made to be in complement as the foundation of the family. That's just the way the nature of the thing goes. So there is male and female, man and woman complementarity that has been systematically destabilized and stripped away as part of the intentional destruction of our people and our culture. And we're not going to be able to return to our culture and our way without resurrecting and restoring that complementarity. You can't skip that step. We can play if we want to, but it ain't going to work like that.
One goes with the other. Everything has to be done decent and in order.
You know what's a good thing to look at if you get a chance, sir? There's a documentary about good times. Go back, and not the one by Eric Monty. There's actually a documentary about Norman Lear and the creation of Good Times and the battle that he had with John Amos over his stat. But it's interesting. If you go back and listen to them talk about how there are certain things that they intentionally wouldn't let John Amos say about black power and black militancy because they knew coming from the mouth of an adult black man it would be offensive to the rest of society. So they made the little boy, Michael. They put put it in his mouth. The little, because people would laugh at it or dismiss it. It wouldn't threaten them coming from a little, like the science of this, and I call it a science. The science of psychological warfare is real deep in popular culture, and we're sleeping, and that's my point. We are victimized now by a 30 to 50 year campaign on the systematic destruction of the complementarity of the black man and the black woman, both in their most powerful manifestation. We have to right that and fix that if we're going to win this battle.
Keep on teaching us, Doc. God bless you.
Thank you for your call, Reverend Jobel. Coming up on another commercial break. If you want to join our conversation, hit us up at 215. It's time to tribe up, y'all. 215-634-8065. Ain't no game playing right here. We got to tribe up, and we got to do it on our cultural values, based on our mores, our idea of Sankofa, what it means for us to be in power of ourselves, to be authoring, self-authoring, autobiographical about who we are, who we were, and most importantly, who we will become as an African people, as a black people. Hit us up at 215-634-8065, toll free, 866-361-0900. We will talk with you after these messages.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD.
And welcome back to Groundings with Brother Shamari. Let's keep the conversation going. I think we have Brother Zen. Greetings.
Good afternoon, Brother Shamari.
How are you?
Tribes Most High. I think we need to. I think something happened back in the late 70s and early 80s. The drug culture that was present. When I was in school, when I was in college, in the late 80s, I had never heard of crack.
Okay.
I heard of crack after I came back home. If they had it in Alabama, I never heard about nobody taking it. But when I came back home, that's when I saw and heard people talking about crack.
Right.
And in a lot of other drugs they were talking about this. So I'm thinking now, before I left to go to Alabama, at Temple University, we had something called the Great Food Land Co-op. Came from the African Studies group there. We worked in the projects across the street.
Wow. Okay.
In their community room. We saw any kind of vegetable that you could think of. We had it, and we sold out every week. People from the community would come by and buy everything we had.
What was it called again?
Huh?
What was it called again?
The Great Food Land Co-op.
Now, this wasn't part of PASSUP. This was part of like the actual African Studies program?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
It was pretty successful, but when I went to Alabama and came back, that had stopped. So I guess I'm not sure what the deal was.
Well, I think we know what the deal is, and that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I want people to understand. Like, and of course, none of us are saying things were perfect, but there was movement happening in the '80s, early '90s that we all saw. It was very visible for us, and then, like you said, all of a sudden, it's like this concerted attack came, and like. Some powers that be decided that we can't let black people do for self. We're gonna have to knock all this stuff out the way, and within a short period of time, it was gone.
I think the drugs did it. Whatever the drugs were that infiltrated our community, that's what did it. Because that's when I noticed we all went to sleep. Even the people who were conscious went to sleep. That's why I think today we need to shake up the people who make clothes. We got to shake up the people who grow and grow food.
Right.
And we also got to shake up them folks that teach people. We could probably start with the people who teach people, and that could be a big step towards getting our lives and our communities back together. So I just close and say, tribes Most High, and we could do it from there.
I appreciate you. That's really one of the premises of Groundings, man. I like the Jele, the griot, the storyteller, the teacher, the mwalimu, the jegna. We have to be resurrected. We have to be shaken awake. We've been remiss in our duties. We have stuff to offer, stuff to share. stuff to teach, stuff to direct people towards and away from. We have a job to do. There is confusion in the crossroads, and there's a space that has been abandoned and abdicated by our teachers, by our storytellers, by our keepers of the culture, by our drummers, by our shaman, by our spiritual people. Like, there's a role and a function that is essential in that space, and in many ways the model of that, the walking of that, the talking is around, the talking of it is everywhere, but the modeling of it, the really being in partnership with our young people, with our warriors, with our sisters and our brothers, in the way that Morpheus was in real model partnership with Neo, with Mr. Anderson, in order for him to become the one. Like, you can't just say that. You can't just say, here, read this book. You actually have to walk in partnership with that person in order to walk them into their power. And so the call, in the words of Brother Zen, and I appreciate that, is to the teachers. It's to those of us who know, those of us who can help somebody walk a path, prepare a path, lay a path, know whether or not they're on the path, need to be redirected from the path. There is work for us. There's work for us as adults. We put so much of our burden for our future on the backs of our children. We put so much of the struggle on our youth. And so we see them in the streets, and our young people out there, and they burning down the cities, and they making noise, and they dying, and they're laying down from the police, and they fighting the police, and it's like, yo, okay, cool. Where are we? Who's leading them? And yes, we are supposed to lead them. Like, this idea that young people know everything are supposed to be leading. This is one of the biggest Trojan horses of white supremacy. And I've said this, and I'm a youth development specialist. And I would say it to youth development practitioners. I would say it to young people. This idea that they're selling you that young people are your leaders, that everything has to be sanctioned and okayed by your young people, is setting you up for failure, because your young people don't even know what they don't know. So how are they going to lead and guide everything? How is it that we got to defer 50, 60, 70, 80 years of wins and losses and victory and strategy and holding stuff together and figuring things out? So I got to listen to you because you 18 and you got energy, or you know how to work a computer? You don't even know what you need to know or not know. We work, again, going back to that word, y'all, going back to that word, complementarity. Elders and youth work in complementarity with one another. The red fire complements the black wisdom. It's when they work in unison that your power comes. If one is working or subverting the other, we have imbalance, we have asymmetry, and the village falls. It's ungrounded. If man is working against woman, we have androgyny. That's not complementarity. It's not one or the other. They work in complement together. The individual and the institution works in complement with one another. The sacred and the secular complement one another. It is both and, never either or. Polarities don't work either or. They have their own identity, but their power comes in working, grounding, working together such that the energy, the currency can pass through and give charge and life to the battery. We're smarter than this. This ain't even us getting smart, by the way. This is us just returning to the basics of our culture. This is culture 101 right here. This ain't even the smart, deep stuff yet. This is the stuff that seems like it's hard, seems like it's smart because we've been driven away from it. But this is straight up old grandma, grandpop 101 stuff that we have to return to. You can't outsource the bottom of the pyramid. You can't outsource your food, your clothing, your shelter, and your protection. Whoever provides that for you owns you. That's not complicated. So if we're going to endure, and not just endure, survive, and not just survive, but thrive through the assault and the attack on our peoplehood, our personhood, our community, our family, our culture, and our existence, the first thing we must all rally around is the ability to provide food, clothing, shelter, and protection for our people, for us, by us. That's what we focus on every time there is an episode of Groundings. And immediately following Groundings on Sundays, we come on 6 to 8 p.m. There's a show right after us called The New World View that comes on from 8 to whenever Brother David Barnes decides he wants to go off the air. What y'all got coming up in store for us today, my brother?
Thank you, Brother Shamari. Actually, tonight we have Professor Carl Tone Jones. He'll be in the house from 8 until 9. And
I just saw him earlier, man. He had a little rhythm. I was surprised. I didn't think Carl Tone Jones had rhythm. He
played the drums either.
Well, he ain't get on no drum.
Oh, I was going to say.
He took a little bell and he danced around and he was tapping his thing, had a little two-step going on. I gave him a little credit because I didn't even think he could do that. So I was impressed a little bit. But you know what also, though? He had his lady with him, so he had to show off. He had to show off.
So he got more skills now since he was
Yeah. She must have gave him some help because he was up there doing his thing, man.
And so then in the second hour at 9 o'clock, we have Phil Washington, our health advisor, and he's actually calling in from Florida. He moved to Florida, but he's still calling.
I thought I just saw him like a month ago, huh?
He just moved a month ago.
Uh-oh. Did he know he was moving, or did he have to get out of town real quick?
He's been planning it a while. You know, he moved into a retirement community down there in Florida.
Wow, that's surprising.
Well, good luck.
Okay, I bet you he's telling everybody how to feed them, how to get the medicine right.
He's trying to get some workshops going on right now in the community in which that he lives. He lives in a gated community,
right?
And so that's at 9 o'clock, and then at 10 o'clock we have our Afrobeat music segment with Patrick and Jadu, and so that's what we'll be doing. But you're having a very interesting conversation today with the vending situation and the idea of self-sufficiency. And once we as black people become more self-sufficient, they begin to throw more things in the game to make us insufficient.
There you go, and we got to, like Wall Street, man. We always talk about Black Wall Street, but we've had some black stuff. And what I think the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, if he had the chance to do it again, would learn this lesson. Like, they shot Martin Luther King and Malcolm X because Martin Luther King was trying to integrate, and they said, no, we don't want that. And Malcolm X was like, later for y'all, we could do our own things. And we don't want that too because we don't know who we are without y'all. And so when we begin, doing for self is not the answer in and of itself. We're going to have to do for self. That's non-negotiable. But we got to protect what we do for self because they don't want to see us do for self. They act like we don't want y'all here to do for yourself. Go back where you. Nah, that's not.
Pick yourself up by your bootstraps.
It's like a schizophrenia.
Yeah.
They don't want you near them. They don't want you because they hate blackness. Period. So it's not about whether you near them or whether you're away from them. This culture is anti-black by design. White supremacy is a negation of blackness. So whether you near it or away from it, they don't care. They don't want to see you do well. That's the nature of the cultural construct. So whatever we're going to create, we have to think about protecting it. Sometimes we do the economics well, or we'll do the culture well, we'll do the protests well, we'll do the voting well, but we don't understand that it does not matter. There will always be a precipitous white backlash that we must prepare for. As we're building, you must battle and build at the same time. Is it fair? Maybe not. But it is our duty. And I don't think we think enough about that. Okay, how do we put a shelter or a buffer or a firewall around this thing that we're creating? Because they're going to come for it.
Well, one thing for certain, it's going to be a tremendous backlash after all this Black Lives Matter movement.
Oh, you see that now. You see that now.
Every time they talk about a black person getting killed, I'm thinking that police probably done shot him.
I mean, it's to that point, man. People, I think, one of the things I do, I always like hearing both sides of an argument. So just as much as I've read about Reconstruction, Civil War, and anti-slavery, I've read slave plantation manuals. Mm-hmm. I would read the arguments, the congressional arguments for pro-slavery as well as anti-slavery. Because you got to get a sense of the culture that we're in. We don't really understand deeply how much this culture views us as less than human, deficient, a threat to their, like it's baked into the culture. And so when they had us enslaved, they felt like they had control over every aspect of our being. They could function in that way. When there was quote unquote freedom, we became a troublesome presence, because now all of a sudden it's two things. They don't control us anymore, and they're fearful that we're going to remember what happened in slavery. So they operate the whole cultural construct around containment. Ever since 1865, how do we contain and break, if necessary, the spirit, the will, the purpose of these people? Because we don't know how to relate with them in any other way. And I don't think we raise our children understanding that. I don't think we understand it, that this is going to be perpetual until we win. And, it's time to man up or woman up about that, because this is the terror dome by design. And we don't want to face that. So I think we tell ourselves everything we can not to have to man up and woman up to face this reality for our people.
I think a lot of people, I talk about this often on my shows, that a lot of people don't think that they are entitled to freedom.
There you go. That's the biggest thing. Like I tell people all the time, we use the word a lot, white supremacy. And I'm saying to us that go back and understand the process, the history. The black inferiority always precedes the white inferiority. They have to deconstruct your belief in who you are, who you were, and who you will be as a people. They create a void in your culture and your consciousness, and then they fill that void with enriched white history. That's where the superiority comes from. But they can't get to the superiority until they deconstruct your belief in yourself, your culture, your people, and your purpose. That's what we have to resurrect and bring back. That is our buffer against any white transgression, white inferiority, white superiority, whatever you want to call it. That's the work we have to do.
That is true. Now, you say this has been an intentional attack against us for, you say, at least 30-year plan. But so what do we do now that this 30 years is coming to an end?
We have to win, period. Again, the bottom of the pyramid. Food, clothing, shelter.
That's right.
Every black person needs to figure out how to provide food, clothing, shelter, and what I call the social support needs of your village. You have to be the first person, the people who are in control of how those things are provided. And then you have to protect the apparatuses that you create in order to provide those things. There's nothing else for us to talk about until we can do that. Because anything else then has us relying on other people to solve our needs for us. We're coming up on a commercial break. When we come back, we'll have the final segment of Groundings with Brother Shamari and a closing word from Pop Pop. Know something, so stay tuned.
White shoe and one nika. Got no house and I got no car. One black boy from Africa. Got big dreams, so go take me far. All I wanna do is to make the world smile. And music I do is my only substance. And I really got plans to make the world dance. Yeah, I make the world dance. As I got money for my pocket, balance it. I go just enter the place, balance it. As I got money for my pocket, balance it. I go just call all my guys, balance it. As I got $10 for my pocket, balance it. I go just do any other way, balance it. As I got money for my pocket, balance it. And my girls fly to Paris. Hello, yeah. Baby, give me that thing that you. I don't come here to play. I want to scatter the place. People try to hold me down, slow me down. I tell them no. Yeah. I just want to enjoy my life. I want to run my race. Back in the days, they said me a broke.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. Start saving more for retirement now, so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A message brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council. Your child deserves to be educated in a safe learning environment. Southwest Leadership Academy Charter School is a tuition-free public school. Both our locations offer dual-gender environments with single-gender classrooms. Our students score in the top state testing percentile among area schools. Apply online at bit.ly/enrolls SLA in all caps. That's bit.ly/enroll SLA.
And welcome back to the final segment of Groundings with Brother Shamari. I must admit, you all, my energy is challenged on Sundays. It's a lot of different. This is a full day for me. Sundays are always a full day for me. But glad I made it through another segment of Groundings with Brother Shamari. Again, we're gonna hear from Pop Up. Know something to close out the show. But before we do, let's go to our final caller of the day, and that would be Ken out of Florida.
Hey.
Greetings.
Greetings, my brother. I heard you use the term "goo," which means a call to action, and I'm saying paying attention.
Yes,
but
sir.
Anyway, my brother.
Brother Ken, please call back. I think we lost you for a quick minute here. I ain't gonna call out my man David Barnes.
It was me.
He's my guest producer today. And,
guess what? I'll mess it up.
So I don't want you to think I hung up on you, Brother Ken. So please call back.
me.
I try to work your comments into the final segment. I'm trying to hold out for about 30 seconds before I go to Pop Pop Grow something. Pop Pop knows something. Give you a chance to call back, Brother Ken from Florida.
All the way from Florida too. I
want to make sure.
I apologize.
I want to make sure that Brother Nasheed gets the last word. So I want Brother Ken to go first. So I'm down to 15 seconds now. I know this is bad radio, but we're gonna survive. I hope. Down to 14 seconds now, Brother Ken. And he started with I may and everything, man. He did the I may after the I go, and he was ready to say something powerful. All right, man. I did it.
We tried.
I tried, brother Ken. Hopefully, I hear from you either Friday or next Sunday. Let's go to Pop. Pop, know something. How you doing, sir?
I'm all right. At the end of the program, Pop knows something. That's a good thing, because you're never too old to learn. That's what the folks say. You're never too old to learn. But one thing I learned at this groundings was that we got to rely on ourselves. And you brought out a good point. And that point was that second wave is coming. And we all saw what the first wave did. That second wave is coming. So we got to unite. Somehow we got to get the resources together that we can depend on ourselves. Who's selling the food? If we need clothes, who's making the clothes? That's all coming from us. And another thing is that we have to realize the nature of this system. The system was never to see us united. So no matter what level, what year, I've been looking at a lot of history within the past several months. And it's never us as the aggressor. I looked at a piece last night that Sam Katz made about Philadelphia. James Fortune and his son. They moved on his son. White folks moved on his son walking down the street because he was an independent black man. So was his father, for no reason at all. Octavia V. Cato.
Right.
They moved on it. It's always them as the aggressor, no matter what level, what decade, what century. This system is built into the system.
Right.
To me, they say that the police was formed to keep the enslaved African in line. They call them patty rollers. Well, I don't think the patty rollers stopped.
Right.
I think it's a secret society of patty rollers, and they out now in full force. Every time I turn on the radio, there's somebody somewhere. I think Colorado.
It's almost like it's a hunt, like hunting season on black people, and we don't know.
Oh, it's the patty rollers. They killed a promising violinist in Colorado just this weekend. Some things we hear about, some things we don't. But as a people, we must believe in ourselves. We must replace the system of believing that one of theirs is going to save us. and turn that around and believe in ourselves.
Pop knows something. I appreciate it. Hopefully, we're at the point where the reality in front of us validates the history that's behind us so that we can create the future that we need to create if our children won't have to repeat the same mistakes and the same stories and the same reality over and over again. That is our responsibility as those who are living today with any modicum of power and purpose in your body. We have to create a reality. We have to protect the reality that allows us to do for ourselves at the basic level that human beings do for themselves, such that our children don't have to repeat our history. Papa Grosson, how do people keep in touch with you and the institution that allows you to tell such powerful stories and become a keeper of the culture?
Well, before I say that, just to put a cap on what you said, in honor of Brother Mo, as his teacher taught him, do for self. Do for self. And this groundings conversation, you gave a lot of examples. It wasn't just talk. It was examples of how we did for self. Again, until someone came in and destroyed it. So that's the work.
Right.
The work is, how do you maintain and sustain something that is for self?
And that's funny because they got us believing we don't know how to do that. And my hope today was we know how to do it. We got examples all around. What we have to consider that sometimes we may not have before is how do we protect it once we do it.
Okay.
And that is where I think the call for us in 2020 is. Let's do it. Let's remember how we did it before. We've done it. It's part of our history. We know how to do it. We know how to feed, clothe, and shelter ourselves. It's part of our recent history as well as our historical history. But what we have to double down on, and maybe we have to learn again or relearn or learn for the first time, is how we protect ourselves from the aggression against our self-determination, the aggression against our Kuji-Jagalia. America, by design, tries to kill the Kuji-Jagalia of our people. We can't let that happen. Our children deserve the best possible future.
Yes, sir. So if anybody wants to join the group of storytellers, Keep It a Culture, they can go to the website, kotcinc.org. Go there, and all the information is right there, and they can tune in and join in.
All right, Pop, it's very good to hear your voice, my brother, and I look forward to hearing from you next Sunday right here on Groundings with Brother Shamari. Again, Groundings comes at you right here, WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live.
Brother Shamari.
Yes, sir.
Can I just, I thank the Groundings audience for the prayers and the well wishes, the get well wishes. It's really been helpful. So hopefully every Sunday I'll be stronger and stronger.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
All right.
Next Sunday, 6 to 8 p.m., streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all our social media platforms at onWURD. We'll be back at you Friday, 1 to 4 p.m. And remember, Why Our Children Hate Us is coming back at you. And my part 2 of that will be For the Love of Black Children, which I have ready for you in September. So for your summer reading, get up on some Why Our Children Hate Us, How Black Adults Betray Black Children. And then follow that up in September, some fall reading with For the Love and Life of Black Children. Hoping my brother David Barnes can take us out here in a little Afro beat or some kind of music that he has dialed up. I hope I'm not catching him too much by surprise, but he's a spin master, so we're going to see what he has ready for us. I'll talk with you all next week.